everybody, to another edition of the Rock Bell Report podcast, live on YouTube, streaming wherever you get your YallTube from.
Your phone, your tablet, the computer.
Tablet.
You know what people got to do, right? I mean, that was a hell of a win.
Oh, boy, here we go.
Let's see if I can go. There's one. So we got four gold chains to go with. And then here's two. Can I do it? No. Appreciate everybody coming out to the tailgate while I put on my fucking gold chain.
I love how you struggle with this.
Damn.
Here's a question. Legitimately, have you practiced putting on jewelry before?
No, I am not a woman and/or from a male from Hoboken, New Jersey.
Hoboken, New Jersey. Wait, so is that like a Jersey Shore thing for you? Like,
yeah,
to you, you genuinely believe like this is a thing you only do if you're clubbing? Because I don't think multiple chains are like, that's not common in the bar community, right? Unless you're talking about Caputis in Tonawanda.
Or long neckers. Long neckers in Lancaster. God, I'm struggling over here.
Well, while you struggle, let me properly welcome everyone to the show. Guys, I'm your host, Bill Season Ticket Holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger. And we are here tonight to talk a little bit about just what we saw on Monday night. Like, it's a thing of beauty. Guys, I've been to a lot of games that have gone well. I've been to Bills games where we won. I've been to Bills games where we lost. I've never been to a Bills game where from start to finish, we were embarrassingly the better team.
You call a Monday night game against the Jaguars, I'll raise you Patriots in the playoffs.
Okay. You know what? Okay, so let's look at it this way. Patriots in the playoffs was the last time I saw a Bills football team look as dominant as they looked on Monday night. It's nuts.
Yeah, and we both thought it was going to be a Jaguars Billsy type game. Look at that. Now I did it.
Well, hey.
How do I look there?
We did.
All my chains on.
Oh,
I got four. Four chains. Four chains. We got them on.
We did talk about the Billsy nature of things and how embarrassing some of these things get. What we didn't account for is how embarrassing the Jaguars are now for their own fan base. It's almost like they've just, like, Chris, they're finally taking their own medicine, and it feels pretty good, doesn't it?
Yes.
Guys, let me run it down for you. This is your week 3 recap. The Buffalo Bills 47, the Jaguars 10. If I want to give you the stats of the game, let's start here. Josh Allen, okay, 21 of 30, 263, 4 touchdowns, no picks, no sacks, a QBR of 142. 142. Now, Chris, keep that number in mind. For the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, 21 of 38, 178, 1 pick, 1 touchdown, 4 sacks, and a QBR of 65. Mac Jones, 5 of 8, 22 yards, 1 sack, 1 fumble. A quarterback rating of 66.7. Somehow both of the quarterbacks who started for the Jacksonville Jaguars combined don't have Josh Allen's QBR. That's embarrassing. Like, if you had that drop queued up, it's fucking embarrassing.
I don't. I'd have to go search for it.
Did you get that other clip from earlier that I had you grab, the Josh Allen audio?
Oh, yeah, it's in here.
I can't wait. Guys, we have a show for you tonight. I also want to throw in here, as we're talking about quarterback stats, the Buffalo Bills averaged 81% success rate on third down in the game. Meanwhile, the Jaguars averaged a negative EPA per passing play by the end of the game. The Jaguars' offensive line, 24 individual pressures, 14 hurries, 5 hits, and 4 sacks allowed. Defensive end is Von Miller, 37% snaps on defense, which was the lowest of all starting defensive ends. 4 pressures, 3 hurries, 2 hits, 1 sack on 4th down, forcing a turnover on downs. Wide receivers Christian Kirk and Gabe Davis.
Gabe Davis plays for the Jaguars?
Christian Kirk led all players, right? Led all players in the game, not just for either team, with 10 targets. Gabe Davis was fourth with 6 targets. Their combined yardage was not like, what is this? Chris, do the quick math. 79 plus 18. Doesn't fucking matter. That's the answer. That's the answer. Neither one of them caught a touchdown, and Christian Kirk obviously had an embarrassing drop in the end zone. Khalil Shakir, 6 of 6, 100% catch rate, 72 yards. Now, Chris, here's one.
100% catch rate again.
72 yards for Khalil Shakir, 76 yards after the catch. This dude's unstoppable. We've talked about wanting a yards after the catch based offense for so long. He's it. This is your poster child. This is the guy you run it through. And then last stat before we switch gears, Bills defensive backs. There were 5 players in the Bills secondary that were targeted 3 or more times that allowed less than 20 yards in coverage. And Benford, Dorian Williams, and Jamarcus Ingram, single-digit yardage allowed. Chris, that's delicious, isn't it?
Yes.
It's almost as good as this Black Manhattan I'm drinking. Guys, Chris has started a new tradition as we kind of recap the tailgate and just kind of give you a flavor of what the stadium was like. First of all, I want to give a huge shout out to everybody who made the tailgate this week. The weather wasn't great, but it really did kind of end nicely, didn't it?
Yeah.
Everything was perfect after the first
midday. Midday, we had a ton of rain. Look at that! Oh, my gold chains. God, I love it. Yeah, our tailgate little light on the drinking because I came back with everything that I had made cocktail wise. There's some left of the old fashioned bottles, some left of the Black Manhattan. Right here in front of me, this is a improved cocktail in a bottle. There's a lot left. Nobody wanted the improved cocktail. And it's just going to build throughout the rest of the season. We're going to get to Kansas City, and I will have 9 different cocktails for everybody to drink that shows up to our goddamn tailgate.
Here's what I love. Super Mexican in the comments. Josh Allen killed the cats so bad Trump is accusing him of being Haitian. And that is the commentary you come to the Rock Pile Report for. I love this. I love that I get to watch comments from viewers in real time. Guys, this is a lot of fun. This game was a lot of fun. The tailgate was a blast. Detro came out, brought a crew, brought a more professional setup than me, and then was kind enough to send me the links to buy the stuff that he has.
Yeah, more tailgate equipment. That's what we need.
No, 100%. I need that. Guys, a bar top that sits inside of a 10 by 10 pop-up tent, game changer. Put a couple bar stools in front of it. You slapped. He even had like the rubber like bar thing that they put out, right?
Yeah.
That said "Go Bills." I love it. I love him. I love it. I'm glad he brought his family out. I'm glad they had a good time, right? People who travel from that distance better get a good showing. Resurgence Brewing came out and did a tasting at our tailgate, guys. You missed out if you didn't show up, but I'll tell you what, we'll shoot for another one this year, maybe the Kansas City game. Don't be strangers. Resurgence Brewing, tasting their latest beer, Drums and Flats. It's a Flats and Drums, I believe it's called.
Either way, I didn't try it.
It's good. It's a real drinkable beer, and I'm a huge fan. Your friend Franny and her bar nuts.
Yeah. There's still some upstairs.
I know. I tried not to eat 5 handfuls of them while I was
I'll go
standing
get
up
them.
there.
I got to go get ice for my cocktail.
Well, you go do that. Bring the nuts down. One of my favorite moments of the entire night, though, being in the stadium when you see things start to light up and they do the intros and the place is already packed for kickoff. There's nobody who's like, I'll wander in the first quarter at some point. The electricity in the building, the noise, getting to watch our friend John Fina do the opening ceremony was awesome. Fina came to the tailgate, hung out, had a couple drinks. It was good to get to talk to him and get to talk to Joe Miller and some of the other guys who work in podcasting. And just, I don't know, getting to see John down there after all these years of being neglected by this franchise as a former player, him getting called to the carpet to come down and intro the team for a game like this on prime time where the crowd is just significantly into it. The funniest part is I wanted to yell, Chris just threw nuts in my face, and it's just the connotations that are terrible. It was just a great day full of great food, great people. I mean, Mark showed up with Little Caesars. I don't know what that means. But to get to see that and feel the energy in the building, and then the way from the first snap, not only was the building packed, but the building was loud. It had that Lauren Oubre, bring the nuts down. Pretty sure that was one of the offensive play calls the other night. Just bring the nuts down. Hit them with it. And as Super Mexican knows, real professionals eat while they do podcasts. The atmosphere ruled. There's a moment that I was reminded of today. Rex Ryan's start with the Buffalo Bills as head coach. The Buffalo Bills host the Indianapolis Colts, and we're shutting them out. And it's 4th down, and that building gets so loud. They're going for it on 4th down because they're getting just boat raced. And they end up picking it up and scoring a touchdown a play or two later, but the reality was the crowd was so intense for this early season game that we felt mattered. Chris, I ask you a question. Would the crowd have been that energized, and would everyone have been that enthused about the course of this game if we hadn't just watched them exceed expectations for 2 weeks?
I think what would have ruined the game, and yes, you're like, what is he doing with his right arm? I'm stirring my cocktail with my finger while I do this. If we didn't get that 4th down on that opening drive, I think it would have let the air out of the stadium.
And yet, for a second week in a row, we went for it on 4th and on an early possession, and they didn't disappoint us. It's almost like we're nearing a point in time where you're kind of forced to appreciate the coordinator. Our offensive coordinator right now is doing just as much heavy lifting as Josh Allen is. Is that the first time we can say that in his entire career as a Buffalo Bill?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you want to go back to Dennison.
Rick Dennison got fired after a single season. Saying his name down here is like a pox on you. It's interesting to me, right? Like, the energy in that building was one born of, we understand how big this is, and we came into this season with no expectations, so all of a sudden we have them now. It was newfound, it was fun, it was fresh, and I like this because I feel like in years past, I've made the comment, the Buffalo Bills are in danger of becoming the 2000s Colts, where you have a star at quarterback, but you're just waiting to see what horror show unfolds in the playoffs, and you end up getting unceremoniously bounced out of the contest and watch somebody else hoist a Lombardi every year. That's what the Colts lived and died with over and over and over again. Even though they had a great quarterback in Peyton Manning, they perpetually dreaded the playoffs. It was more of like oh man, once we make the playoffs, who's our draw? And they bypassed the joy that is the regular season. I think that all of the departures that the Buffalo Bills had this year opened us as fans up to the possibility that, like, hey, this could go sideways. This could go poorly. And that's okay. No one would blame you. It's a rebuilding year. And yet at the same time, it isn't. They're winning. And they're not just winning, but they're dominating bad football teams. But that's what great football teams do, is they embarrass their lessers. And so in that way, the energy that you felt in that building on Monday night was born of a place of a bunch of people who did not expect their team to be one that could embarrass their lessers like this.
See T in the comments? The Truck Chronicles.
The Truck Chronicles.
I mean, you just wait for Truck Chronicles when we get to the loser of the game.
Oh my God, it's going to be bad on those rides home when the Bills inevitably lose a tough one. Lauren Oubre, Lauren, we miss you. You got to come back, bring your family to a tailgate. All I know is the energy that we felt in the building that night. It's born of a place of people with no expectations who all of a sudden are excited about something. And the Bills are giving us everything to be excited about. And I love it. I can't wait. Chris, let's dive into the game dissection, can we?
Yeah.
I want to start with some punching down because we are the pettiest Bills podcast. There's been some really inept football played this season. The Browns gave up 5 sacks on Deshaun Watson in just a blowout in week 1 against the Cowboys. Those same Cowboys got absolutely embarrassed the following week against the Saints, and their head coach, who I think the term is sachet. I think I think,
like Kenny Povich, you sachet on out of here.
You sachet on out of here. He sachets when he walks. He's sassy, and he's a bad bitch. And I'll tell you what, it's devastating. And it's hilarious to envision him as the coach of a team that's playing like it probably should win the NFC South. Like, imagine a dude who walks like he just Z-snapped at you, and then also you lose to him in embarrassing fashion like that. And then the Dolphins saw their entire season go up in a puff of teal smoke on primetime in front of everybody, right? Like, we've seen some embarrassing show-your-ass performances. I think there's an argument to be made that what the Jaguars did on Monday night is the saddest performance of every football team anywhere, and easily the worst of the NFL season so far by any team.
Yeah, what was that? Who made that comment to us on? I think it was Eric. Was it Eric Harris that texted us in a group chat that Doug Peterson updating his resume right now because he's going to be the first guy on the hot seat.
Oh yeah, no, it's not going to go well. It's Doug Peterson said he had a very good meeting with Shad Khan, even though reports were already emerging that Shad Khan was the angriest anyone in his group had ever seen him after this game. And could you blame him? He left. This is a guy who he's rich enough that he owns soccer teams, Chris. Do you know what that means? He has yacht money.
Yeah.
Imagine having yacht money, and then you come to Buffalo in early September when it's raining and watch your team just get curb stomped like they don't exist. It almost makes you regret getting into it at all, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's hilarious, and it's hilariously bad. They set the record for NFL drops since 2021 on Monday night. Do you know that?
No, I did not know that.
Christian Kirk's drop in the end zone made that 108 drops. Their wide receiver core keeps churning, and now their fan base is apoplectic over the idea of who's to blame for this. Why do we still suck? Why can't our wide receivers catch the ball? It's got to be coaching. At one point, I looked at Chris while we were sitting in the seats, and I said, Chris, it's been 3 quarters, and I still have no idea what the hell the Jaguars' game plan is.
You know where you find that? The campaign of Kamala Harris. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
So if you guys don't know, it's going to sound a lot better if you go to the audio version, because we have gotten wind that there have been a ton of Kamala Harris ads.
It's almost like they're trolling
channel.
us.
Yeah. So that's going to sound a lot better.
But not trolling us, trolling that guy and all of his stupid fucking political comments during What's a Football podcast, where I'm drinking whiskey and I don't give a shit about anybody who sits in any desk. I say you set them all on fire and we figure it out afterwards. But that's why no one talks to me about politics. I just believe in a lot of nuclear options. So Chris and I are sitting in the seats, and I look at him and I go, I don't know, like, where we sit, I have the all-22 view. I get to see from our seats the all-22 view of the football field. And I looked at Chris at one point in the third quarter and I said, I don't know what their offensive approach was supposed to be. I can't tell yet because so much has gone wrong schematically with it. It's broken. It's terrible. It's not succeeding. And in that way, it's doomed to fail. And sure enough, it continued to fail on throughout the game. There was no comeback effort. I mean, Chris, it felt like they were doing what most people who play Madden do, right? Like Well, I'll just pick a play, and I'll pick this play, and the next time I'll pick that play. They're not setting things up. There's no story that they're trying to tell. There's no playing to our strengths. It's, well, this play looks good. And then they look at a call sheet and they go, this play, and then we'll call this play right after. And they go, hey, wait, those are two different formations. We have to switch guys, and the Bills can change. What if we go no huddle? And Doug Peterson's like, no huddle? What are you, dumb? No, we want to lull them into a false sense of security. Because that's what the Jaguars did.
I don't know if you guys know this about the game. The over-under for the game was 46.5.
The Buffalo Bills
covered it by themselves. That's how bad it was.
How many times in NFL history has a team covered the over by themselves?
You know what? I'd have to double check on Sunday. It might have been Carolina because they beat the Raiders.
Oh boy,
they beat the Raiders.
Interesting. Also, Trevor Lawrence. Can we end this? Put a puka shell necklace on that guy, stick him on a lifeguard tower, and just stop this. He's not a football player.
You know what the report is this week?
What?
Is that Trevor Lawrence, like, since he got drafted, Trevor Lawrence, he likes football. He doesn't love it.
So he's Bo Callahan.
Sure. So
good. So the Jaguars spent that pick on Bo Callahan.
He might be missing. He's not first guy in, last guy out type of dude.
You know what's
That's the report.
You know what's fucked up about all this is that the Jets were trying to tank for Lawrence. And the Jets failed, and that's how they ended up with Zach Wilson. Somehow, both franchises raced to the bottom and ended up with an overpaid version of E.J. Manuel and Geno Smith. Come at me if I'm wrong. Come at me if you disagree. I say this. You send one of them back to Utah where he belongs, where he can have 9 wives, and it'll be fine. No one will make fun of him because he's short.
Maybe his mom will be one of them.
His mom is out there trolling social media, dude. It's bad. And then you have Trevor Lawrence, who, like I said, put a puka shell necklace on that guy and let's stop pretending. Put him on a lifeguard tower somewhere in SoCal and let's end this charade. He's not a good quarterback.
I always said if you were going to do a live action remake of the TGIF show from the early 90s, Dinosaurs, Trevor Lawrence would be 100% a part of that cast. He looks like he'd be live action Dinosaurs.
Here's what I love.
Don't hit the baby.
I also want to give you guys some perspective on how they fucked that roster up. The Jaguars have $111 million tied up in their contracts for Christian Kirk and Gabe Davis, lifetime. The Bills' entire pass-catching core is only worth $45 million, and we made them look like idiots this week. Their left tackle, Cam Robinson, that they felt like extending, and they put a bunch of money into. 8 pressures, 3 hurries, 3 hits, and 2 sacks, and the last sack that Cam Robinson gave up shows you what a fucking quitter that guy is. Because it came to Javon Solomon, a literal rookie, playing in his first NFL snaps. It's hilarious. You can't write this. Like, if I'm a comedy writer and I was trying to make a movie about a bad football team, I would have a hard time matching what that group over there in Jacksonville has already done in real life. Like, Chris, they stole that's it. I would have to license the right to this for him, because to make a more embarrassing film about how to not build a successful team, I would have to crib so much that I would owe them royalties for copyright. The Jaguars didn't just bring a knife to a gunfight. They brought a rusty spoon. And my favorite was a tweet from Brett Coleman, okay, that literally just asked.
Oh, I'll get that ready here.
Here we go, guys. It's going to pop up on screen here. At what point does a football game violate the Geneva Convention? That's it. Like, that's it. And someone says the U.S. never ratified the original Geneva Convention. You play ball. I like that. I like that guy. Now, Chris, the question becomes, how did we dominate them this badly? Well, first of all, We dominated the trenches in a way that I haven't seen the Bills do in a long time. If you were to blindly show me the box scores, just the box statistics on offensive line, defensive line, team A, team B, and then ask me which one had recently invested millions into its front seven and offensive line and which one had recently cut its center and was starting backup linebackers and had to go shop cheap for backup defensive tackle talent. Chris, I couldn't have been more shocked by this. Do you have the graphic about the pressure rate on Josh Allen?
Oh, for the Jags?
Yep. Can you throw that up there on the screen for everybody? Guys, I want to introduce you to how close these guys got to Josh Allen over the course of the evening. I want you to see that. Take a look at that. Stare into it. Those are real numbers. So when they say average yards of separation, that's usually, Chris, that's usually something saved for what? Wide receivers?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're talking about the average yardage of separation between a defensive lineman and a quarterback, you expect to see them relatively close. And so it's hilarious noting that there isn't a single guy who got within a half a yard of Josh Allen.
Walker, 4.82.
Guys, it's crazy. This offensive line kept Josh so clean that he had time to, I don't know, wonder what his wife's, like his girl, what his fiance's doing. Wait, are they engaged? Him and Haley Steinfeld? Is that real?
I don't know. Lauren, let us know. You're the only woman here.
When you look at this chart right here on the screen, that's pathetic. How much money did you pay Teron Armstead or Eric Armstead? How much money did you pay Hines Allen? Now he's no longer Josh Allen. He had to differentiate himself. And for good reason, because he realized he couldn't hold our Josh's jock. You're the guy that you took despite all pundit indication that it was a smart idea, like a bad idea. You took Trevon Walker, and he had a bunch of sacks last year. All of the guys that you trusted to get the job done in the trenches failed you miserably. That's pathetic. Our offensive line has been doing a phenomenal job. And this game is a direct result of what you see from that. And I think that a lot of credit goes to the bookend tackles. Chris, we were worried. Like you're worried about Spencer Brown after last season, after the last few seasons. Right now, he's one of a few offensive linemen who only have I think he has less than 3 pressures given up and no sacks on the season.
Yeah.
In a league year that's been dominated by defense, not so much offense. You look at Deion Dawkins. Deion Dawkins is just what he's always been.
He's got great numbers.
And so in this way, we dominated them in the offensive trenches. And then you flip to the other side of the ball. Okay? I don't like you know what? Let me go back to the offensive because I don't think we're doing them due diligence. I've got some stats here that I want to kind of give the listeners, the people in the chat, our regulars. Guys, thank you for showing up every single fucking week.
Yeah, Steve Noble says, shout out Aaron Cromer.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, Jacksonville, Florida, beach chairs, Aaron Cromer.
He beat the Jaguars like they tried to touch his beach chairs.
Yeah.
Josh Allen finished with 1 pressure, 2 tackles, and 1 missed tackle attempt. This is Josh Hines Allen. Was a non-factor. Credit the offensive line. Spencer Brown dominated his matchups on the right side throughout the night, and in the blocking game, he was consistently at the second level, taking on linebackers, coming across, filling. He was pulling into the middle of the formation and acting as a fullback when they went into single back looks. That's the type of shit that you weren't getting from the Bills' offensive line for the last decade. Chris, Aaron Cromer has earned a giant shout-out, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Terrible pass rushing combined with a defensive system that plays directly to the strength of Josh Allen, which is just getting him outside the pocket and letting him use his legs. That touchdown to Dalton Kincaid shouldn't have happened if their defensive front was any match for our offensive line. And it's funny because they've put a lot of money and time and effort into cultivating that thing. Josh was able to just run around and find the guy. Drew at 1.8 speed on the pod sounds less drunk. Brendan O'Brien. Hey, listen, I'm drinking Manhattans, brother. What do you want from me?
Plus, you've also had 5 golden bullets.
Shh. Oh, they can see him in the camera.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. We're on camera. We're live. Terrible pass rushing, great blocking, Josh Allen. Recipe for disaster for a team, right?
Yeah.
Then you flip it to the other side and you take a look at our defensive players, and I'll tell you something. Von Miller. Remember when in 2022, after we signed Von Miller, that our defensive front was one of the best in the NFL? And everyone goes, oh, the Bills are disruptive. We have sacks. We have all these things going on, and it's not just one player doing it, it's everybody. Well, Von Miller currently sits at 13th in the NFL in pass rush win rate.
Ralph Wilson in the comments looks like Florida banned playbooks, too.
Yes! This is the commentary you do a live show for. I love that we've cultivated just a bunch of petty sons of bitches to be our fans. I love it. I love you guys. So Von Miller, Chris, after last year being a disappointment, is now in the top 15 of all NFL pass rushers in terms of win rate.
You would know this more than me. I don't know what his snap percentage is, but over the course
38 to 40.
Over the course of the season, he's come up big in third down spots. He had the fourth down sack on Lawrence in the third or fourth quarter to, keep the game in our hands. It's like now that he's up there in age, he's coming in on third and long or third where you need a good pass rush to get that sack.
They're saving him for these opportunities, and I think it's the smartest thing they could have done because realistically, that's where he provides his value. You have the reason that you extended Epinesa is because you don't want Von Miller out there on first down when most teams are probably going to run the ball, right?
Yes.
So in that way, you can get away with hiding him and letting him be more dynamic, letting him save himself throughout the course of a game. And what you get is now a much more dynamic Von Miller. I'm excited about it. I think it's a giant boon for our defense. Also, you go on down the line at our defensive tackle room, okay? You look at this, Daquan Jones is tied with former Bill Tim Settle at 10th for pass rush win rate for defensive. It's a tough thing to say, Brendan. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, with 5 beers and a Manhattan.
When you see that from a defensive tackle and a defensive end who are both achieving highly in terms of pass rush win rate, it's hard to move against them. And then you bring in the fact that Ed Oliver, he's involved. Ed Oliver has yet to have an Ed Oliver game. I shouldn't say that. He did have the Dolphins game where he got that fourth down sack and everyone goes, he's great. I'm waiting for the quintessential Ed Oliver game this season where it comes against a quality opponent. I think that the success of Daquan Jones, the success of Von Miller, the fact that A.J. Epinesa is no slouch, I think all these things are lining up to pave the way for those guys to pay dividends in these games against opponents who really matter. And I'd like to believe that Bobby Babich is holding some things in reserve for games like this, but maybe not. Who knows? Who cares? I just know that we're a better version of us when Von Miller is healthy. And right now, Von Miller looks like he's fully recovered and he's playing the type of football that we expected to get out of him when we signed him. And at the same time, they're doing it smartly and they're monitoring his snap count. Chris, that right there is the win. You have a dominant player who you're holding in reserve so that he can continue to be dominant throughout games, throughout multiple games, throughout stretches of a season, hopefully on into the playoffs, because we have yet to have a full speed Von Miller in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
It was nightmarish for the Jaguars quarterback and running backs. It was. I mean, at the half, the Jaguars only had 19 rushing yards, and Chris made the joke that the corgis that were racing at halftime Guys, they literally, at halftime of the Bills game, they put GoPros on corgis, and they raced them from what, the 40-yard line?
I don't know if they had GoPros on them, but
They did. I saw a couple of them.
They did a corgi race, 40-yard dashes, but the Jaguars run attack had 19 yards total. So the corgis had more rushing yards than the Jaguars run game.
Which is hilarious and pathetic. I love it. Now, I'd be remiss. We've been making fun of the Jaguars. I got to make fun of their fans a little bit too, because there was a Twitter thread that I got into today from some guy who a while ago decided that he was going to tweet out something about how, I'm going to read it to you. It says, now this is August 31st, this Jaguars fan tweets out, arguing with someone who thinks Khalil Shakir, and he puts it in quotes, is better than Kirk. Now, obviously, he's talking about Christian Kirk. I'll tell you what, his mentions are a shambles today. It's a tire fire. If Gordon Ramsay could see what the flambe that's going on here, he'd be impressed. Anybody, this guy named Akash, who's got 18,000 followers on Twitter. He's a target share truther, retired TikToker, president of the Devon Achan fan club. Okay, this guy goes, Shakir is pretty bad. I can't believe he has any hype. Today he comes back and goes, yo, I'm getting fucking cooked. I'm getting cooked in these mentions. We as Bills fans are so petty. We sought out this guy's Twitter feed and we ravaged everybody who was a part of it. Anybody with anything ill to say about Khalil Shakir got theirs and then some today. Chris, I'm happy I got to play a part in it.
I'm not even at my mic.
What I love is they go, oh, it's all Bills fans. Like they have no idea. It's, it's someone just 20 minutes ago tweeted, yeah, nailed it, geniuses. We're here to fuck you up. We're here to fuck up your day. It's been nothing but 2 days of Bills fans in this one Jaguars fans mentions, and every other dumbass Jaguars fans who got in on it just piling on it. What how stupid they are for discounting Khalil Shakir, not expecting our offensive line to be good. Josh Allen, you disrespected him. This is what happens to you. Chris, it's hilarious that we've gotten to be the team that had the downward, we had the downward trajectory before a single snap was played.
We're 40 minutes into this.
Yeah.
And we have not yet spoken on my greatness. I sat in the stands next to this fucking dickhead, and I called a Keon Coleman touchdown.
Guys,
I was standing next to Drew, and I saw a single high safety, and I pointed. The only thing I could get out of my mouth before the play started was Coleman, and I just repeated myself, Coleman, and he's crossing that. I don't even know who the other receiver was on that route because all it was a simple cross.
That was a deep cross.
And when you're running,
look at you know about deep crosses.
When you're
oh my God, this is I want to cry like a dad watching his kid ride a bike with no training wheels.
When you are running a single high safety and with a receiving core, as a safety, you got Coleman over here, and I'm going to assume it's Shakir. If it was Diggs, we would know, Diggs is probably the guy, so I'll ride high cover on Diggs. But he didn't know who was going, so he was frozen in the middle. Coleman cuts across into the corner, touchdown, and all I could do was just yell Coleman 6 times. That's all I could get out, but I called that touchdown. You're welcome.
Guys, it literally brought a tear to my eye. Watching Chris identify a route in phase.
Drew's never given me any insight into knowing football knowledge.
Phase, Chris identified an open receiver before he came open. And when he did, and Josh hit him with the football, I hugged Chris, and it made him uncomfortable. Chris is like, don't touch me.
Yeah, don't touch me.
Because it was the perfect play. It was the right play, and it's so obvious what we were trying to do in the moment. And that's why I think it speaks volumes that through 3 quarters, I still had no idea what the hell the Jaguars were trying to accomplish. But that moment right there, that one you identified, that's unselfish football, and it kind of plays to something Josh talked about this week in his post-game presser. Chris, if you want to hit us with the audio.
It's paying dividends of what we've worked on throughout the entire offseason and through training camp of the everybody eats mentality. And again, it could be your play, this play. You never know when it's going to happen, and that's the beauty of it. When guys get to buy into this and really understand, like, I may not get the ball 4 or 5 times thrown to me a game, but the 1 or 2 times I do, I'm going to have opportunities to be in the end zone. And, it's a fun and wonderful thing when you got a bunch of guys that don't care about the stats. They don't care about the touchdowns. And again, I think throughout practice, we've just had this mindset of like, hey, let's just do things the right way and find ways to win football games. That's what we're doing right now.
Is that a shot at Diggs? Josh Allen, post-game presser.
Josh Allen, post-game presser from BuffaloBills.com. FS1's Michael Irvin obviously took it there and asked, did Josh just take a shot at Diggs? Because what they're trained to do is to
hold on. If you go watch that Michael Irvin on Speak, I texted you.
Yeah.
He looks like a backup dancer for Seal.
So here's what I think about this. You hear Josh kind of diffuse that and go, no. Today he spoke and he said, look, I care about the guys who are in my building. I don't care about what goes on outside here. I'm not speaking of Diggs. I love Diggs. I love all the guys that I've ever played with. But for me personally, why the hell shouldn't he take shots at Diggs? I mean, look at what just happened. Our offense is one of the most efficient and explosive in the NFL, and it's because we're able to incorporate everybody. It's because you're going to have a Mac Hollins who, when he only sees 2 targets a game, he's still willing to give 110% when he gets those 10 targets. When you get a Khalil Shakir who knows his number is probably going to get called more than most, he doesn't disappoint. He's full go. He's execution. He's a lot of things. When you talk about a guy like a Coleman, who, for reasons we're going to talk about in a little bit, missed the first quarter of the football game. Why? Because he was late. He was a slob. He wasn't a professional. Right? Like, these are things that would not exist if you were trying to funnel your offense through 2 guys because they're talented. Instead, you have an an inclusive mentality on offense. And because of that, our offense, because we have one of the best, if not the best quarterback in football, is cruising through these games against mediocre competition. I'll take that. Right? And for anybody who wants to defend Diggs, tell me that Stephon Diggs this weekend did better with Houston when they made him the focal point. Guys, those of you who don't play fantasy football, Nico Collins had a little bit of an ankle tweak. He missed a lot of practice. So this week, Houston made Stephon Diggs the focal point of the offense. Chris, you want to go pull up the stats of that game? Go to Pro Football Reference and pull up the box score of that game. You know, Stephon Diggs as a focal point is a great idea. It's a great thought. You know what's not a great idea or thought? Is getting blown out 34-7 because your offense can't move the football. And then when you scroll down, Chris, and tell me, how many targets did Stephon Diggs have? You're going to scroll up. It's right there.
Let's see. He threw a pass and completed it.
Yeah.
12 targets, 10 catches, 94 yards, no touchdowns.
No touchdowns. So then look at Nico Collins. 10 for 86 with a bad ankle.
10 targets, 4 catches.
4 catches.
86
because
yards.
He's hurt. So what you did was you turned this into a game where, hey, we're going to funnel the offense because we're going to make him play injured. We're going to funnel through Stephon Diggs. Oh, wait, we're not explosive? We're not able to get downfield fast enough. Chris, maybe he's just old. And in this way, isn't it almost like, hey, look at when the Bills' offense got better?
You know who was also old? President Joe Biden. We'll be right back after this. All right. Yeah.
Guys,
it's going to sound so much better if you just listen to the audio version.
He truly believes they're trolling us because they keep playing Kamal ads, and listen. I don't.
We
care.
don't know what ads get played on this show.
My thing is, I don't care. Left, right, they're all idiots. I say we burn this thing down and start over again, but then people go, "Whoa, Drew, you're getting crazy." Yeah, obviously, I'm nuts. Here's one of the things I love. When you look at what he's talking about, playing unselfish football. The Jaguars steered headfirst into playing man coverage against the Buffalo Bills. I want to know when teams are going to learn. The Jaguars, just like the Miami Dolphins before them the previous week, are hell-bent on playing man defense like they got drunk and forgot that they don't have Jalen Ramsey and A.J. Bouye in their prime back there anymore. They don't, like you're not missing your starting safety, Darnell Savage, right? Since 2020 on early downs, first and second, Josh Allen has 42 touchdowns and 4 interceptions against man coverage, which is a wild statistic. It almost seems like it's not real. 42 touchdowns and 4 picks on early downs against man coverage. So why would you think that it's a good idea to roll into Buffalo on a night when the place is full of energy and try to run that defensive scheme? Their defensive coordinator has a shitty, handlebar mustache. I feel like they should make him shave it, Chris, after a performance like this.
Yeah.
You think that they would do some analysis ahead of a matchup with Buffalo and then stop the lunacy. But these are idiots from Florida. I mean, I don't know what the literacy rate is down there. He probably drank the water, and now he's stuck. Chris, is that it? Is it just the water that makes coaches dumb when they get to when they hit the Florida area?
Mm-hmm.
Mike McDaniel fell apart the moment he got to Miami. He was smarter when he started than he is now. Chris, I bet you they'll do a study years from now, and they're going to tell us that, hey, guess what? The water in Florida, way worse than Flint, Michigan.
Yes, 100%.
We should have been on top of that. You've all been drinking it. That's the problem. So last night, as I was kind of finalizing my notes for the podcast, I listened to Steve Gleason. I think that's his name, right, Chris?
Steve, the guy with ALS?
No, who's the guy on the ESPN broadcast?
Dude, Steve Gleason played for the Saints, has ALS. The radio show that I used to work for in Atlanta, 790 The Zone, Mayhem in the AM with Steak Shapiro, they all got fired for making Steve Gleason jokes. And that was the downfall of the station, and the station dissolved less than a year after that.
Well, hopefully that doesn't happen to the Rock Power Report. But also, you can't derail this because nobody really owns it. It's just us. You can't fire me from a job that we started. So with that said, Steve Levy?
Yes, Steve Levy.
Steve Levy from the ESPN broadcast. And I'll say this. He talks about unselfish football, and he matched Josh Allen's sentiment. And he noted that on the first drive, the team had thrown 6 passes to just 3 rushing attempts, and that drive was breaking a ton of the perceived tendencies that analysts and I'm sure defensive coordinators have started to kind of assume that they can parse when it comes to matching up with Buffalo. The idea being that they replaced runs up the middle of the field and said, hey, listen, we know they just paid Eric Armstead a lot of money to be a good defensive interior presence for him. Josh Allen is what he is on the other side of the ball. We know that Travon Walker's a good pass rusher. You know what we're going to do? Instead of running the ball, we're going to pass a ton, and we're going to exchange handoffs for just long passes to the flat. Chris, isn't that just an extended handoff?
Yes.
It's not like there's defenders breaking up those passing lanes. It's a wide open lane between running back and quarterback. In that way, Brady is a genius for steering into that. They replaced the middle of the field runs with passes to the flat, and we just marched the ball on them. They were prepared after weeks of film study to say, hey, we've seen the Bills' tendencies. We understand what they're going to do. We're going to be stout up the middle. And then we just hit them in the flats and just kept it running to the sidelines. And they had no ability. Chris, show them the passing chart. Do you have that one loaded?
I'll load it right here.
Bring that up on screen. I want everyone to see this. This is what we did to a football team that came into this game thinking that they could sit their linebackers
Move your
in the
body
middle
to
of the
the
field.
left.
This way?
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go. There's your pass chart.
Look at this passing chart and tell me that they didn't know the Jaguars were going to try to take away everything that they were doing in the middle of the field. All those interior runs, all of the delayed, the pulling guard up the middle stuff. They said, nah, fuck you guys. You paid way too much money to your front seven. We're going to expose you. We're going to pitch it out. Now, we're just going to beat you this way. And they had zero answer.
Dude, you can't make this stuff up. Today is the anniversary of the Steve Gleason punt.
No! I'm sorry, Steve Gleason. It's not my fault. I've heard the name so much down here. It's just, it's top of mind. They did what like some golfers do, and they used every club in their bag. The Bills did on offense this game. And it's incredible when you see Curtis Samuel getting involved. He's getting involved in orbit motion. You saw Dalton Kincaid being used as soon as it always seemed like they had the right call. Well, that's not an accident. What that is it's a football team that understands what they are, and they know what you think they are, and they're going to use that against you. And it blew up in the Jaguars' face. The defensive coordinator had to go home, sit in a dark room, like I said, hopefully shave off his stupid mustache, and just lament everything he thought before playing the Buffalo Bills. Like using speed like Shakir and Cook in the flats with elite separation skills. And then Josh Allen having the patience to just let the offense come to him and play within it. There's nothing better, is there?
No.
I mean, dude, 5, 6, 7, 14. I'm looking at the drive charts. We were turning over first downs in chunk fashion using check downs. That's scheme. And when your quarterback doesn't feel like he has to press and play hero ball, and the scheme does this much lifting, all of a sudden it makes him... Chris, this is what Patrick Mahomes has been getting away with for years.
Super Mexican.
I know, I see it. Chris, here's a question. Patrick Mahomes, he's been getting away for years with playing inside of a really sound offensive structure with well-designed motion that gives him his tells, strong rushing presence, also production in the passing game from the running backs. Also, he has 5 layers of wide receiver talent that he can go to the point where guys you don't recognize are catching first down passes in a lot of Chiefs games. The question is this iteration of Joe Brady's offense and Josh Allen's acceptance of it, but then like his ability to play within that, but still be special using his physical traits. This might be the closest we'll ever be to being a Chiefs offense, right?
I'd hope so.
I mean, look at the points we're racking up. This is what you do to dog shit football teams. You wail on them, and we're doing it. And meanwhile, you look at the Chiefs and you go, you guys are just a handful of plays away from being a 1-2 football team.
All those Mahomes turnovers.
You're just this close to being a 1-2 football team. You didn't look that dominant. And who'd you play? It's going to be interesting. Now, I have a whole bunch of stats here that I'd love to continue shitting all over the Jaguars about how bad they are. But instead, I want to get down to, well, first of all, Chris, before we get to Hero and Zero, can I just say, one of my favorite things about the film review of this game, rewatching it, was how James Cook and Ray Davis were laying monster blocks in pass pro. That doesn't go without note. You don't get this type of offensive performance where you have time to throw to a Shakir as he's breaking away from a linebacker if your running back doesn't eat one now and again. But our running backs aren't big, right? Like Latavius Murray was our pass protector last year.
Yes,
Sucked at catching the ball, not a great rusher.
correct.
Now, you look at what these two smaller running backs have been able to achieve. They're destroying. Like they are crushing in terms of pass pro. Ray Davis took on two guys and opened up a way for him to throw the ball to Josh Allen to throw the ball to Matt Collins on Monday night. And James Cook buried a couple dudes. And he's the smallest running back we have. I love that they've made this a point to say, hey, look, we're going to be tough. We are running backs. We go out on running routes and we do catch the ball and we do all these things. But they're showing toughness and physicality that you wouldn't expect from guys their size. And I think that that's huge. Now, Chris, we got to get to the hero and zero of the game. Can you hit me with this week's hero? It's Christian Benford.
Don't take it personally, all right? Franchise star players are a lot like Highlanders. There can only be one.
There can be only one Christian Benford. Guys, right now, if you go to PFF and you look at cornerback statistics, Christian Benford is number 2 in the NFL in overall evaluation. If I just use my eyes to tell you what I saw and then on rewatch and watching the tape, one of the few catches Brian Thomas Jr., the highly touted rookie that every Bills fan wanted for their own. Remember, Chris? The wide receiver train. Whoop, whoop. Trade up. Go get Neighbors. And then Neighbors comes off the board. And they go, well, BTJ. The Bills have to get BTJ because they can't get the same production out of a Coleman. Not going to lie, Coleman had better numbers than him on the night. Just saying.
Yes.
Brian Thomas Jr. was the apple of a lot of Bills fans' eyes. In the second quarter, when we still thought this was going to be a game, Lawrence hits Brian Thomas Jr. in stride, and that guy's working up the sideline. And Benford comes over and lays a hit on him. And I don't mean a hit. I mean a lick. A hit that, as a fan, when you're watching it in the stands, it gets you out of your seat. You go, oh, that should be on Jacked Up and ESPN back in what, like 2006?
Yeah.
And then Brian Thomas Jr. looks at the ref after the play like there's supposed to be a flag, and the ref's like, that was a clean play. Fast forward to the third quarter. Brian Thomas Jr. catches a ball. He's running to the sideline. Christian Benford buries him out of bounds. And then as he's trying to get up, shoves him to the ground not once, but twice. And just shoves him. And then when he gets up and gets in Benford's face, BTJ is huge. Benford's in his grill, giving it right back. And it's helmet to helmet. He's not backing down from that guy. I did what I did. I said what I said. I punked your ass. I'll see you in hell. Chris, the things I would say in that moment.
Roy in the comments, does he get a contract extension and how much?
Oh, you have no idea how much he's going to cost. It's
8 to 10?
Oh, for sure. Minimum. We're just starting to talk about what he's going to cost. There's a reason that they didn't extend Douglas yet. Because Douglas is old and Benford's new, and Benford is, Chris, you're waving at me. What do you got?
Let me ask you this. So, in the way of New England was good at this, and the only one that comes to mind is the way that they handled Richard Seymour to the Raiders.
Okay.
They got a first-round pick for him, and he was dog shit the next year, and then I think retired less than 2 years later. So, I mean, injury-related, you get rid of Trey White after the ACL and the Achilles. He's dog shit in L.A. Are you assuming Douglas is down? Now, I mean, barring injury, Douglas is down the age path of Trey White. So you're not offering Douglas money So you're saving that money to give to Benford because he's young and hot.
I believe so, but I also don't think he's shot, and I don't think he'll leave the team. I think they'll find a way to keep him, but that's for another conversation. What I want to talk about right now is what we saw on Monday night and why it gives me so much hope for what this team can be this season. Right? Like, because the idea was, if you listen to the Emmanuel Achos of the world, we don't have any talent.
No, we don't.
We don't have dogs. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. You know what I saw? Christian Benford fought that dude the whole game who's bigger than him, more physical than him, got a bigger catch radius. He had pass breakups. He had everything. He has all the... Christian Benford won the night, no matter who was lined up, but Brian Thomas Jr. and him had wars. And then later on in the game, there's a play where Brian Thomas Jr. lays out for a pass and he doesn't get it. And as he's trying to get up off the ground, Benford shoves him back to the ground with two hands. Trey White was a very technically sound cover corner. So is Christian Benford. Christian Benford is just nasty. He's mean. There's an aggression to the way that he plays the game of football. And when you go back and you look at it, Chris, what was Trey White? Trey White was excellent cover skills. And when things required physicality, where was he? Meh. He was meh. Meanwhile, you've got Christian Benford, who is bullying other teams' wide receivers week in and week out. Both statistically and physically, if you watch it, he's punking them. He's provoking emotional reactions from them. He's doing a lot of the things that you expect from a hardcore number one cornerback on an NFL football team. And I think that part of it is he has a chip on his shoulder that he was a sixth-round draft pick. The same way Stephon Diggs talks about being passed over by so many teams and finally getting to go out and show his brand of football on the field. Benford's letting it all hang out there because he's looking at it like a guy who has nothing to lose, which is awesome because it makes him special. And then you look at it and you think back to Dane Jackson, Levi Wallace. Look at all the soft cornerbacks that have come through Buffalo that Sean McDermott cultivated into starters and made them a lot of money. Dane Jackson went on to, after he left Buffalo, he got a contract somewhere.
Levi Wallace
left here to go be a starter for Pittsburgh until they realized he sucked, and then they drafted a guy in the first round. The Buffalo Bills brought in Christian Benford and coached him up into a monster. And now look at him in a Sean McDermott system. He is, I want to say, a modern day, what's his face? The guy who got shoved out by, I don't know why his name's, well, I know why. It's the Manhattan. The guy who fought with OBJ when he was on the Giants. He was an all-pro for the Carolina Panthers under Sean McDermott. He came here to the Buffalo Bills and then got thrown.
Josh Norman?
Josh Norman. This is like Josh Norman stuff where you took a guy who shouldn't have been registered as anything and made him something. You know, we talked a couple weeks ago about Sean McDermott building something from nothing. Benford's that guy. He's physical and he understands the core concepts of what it takes to play football at this level. He's springy. And I feel like he's right now at his athletic peak in the NFL because I watch him making PBUs that he didn't make a year ago or in his rookie season. It's a major departure in philosophy, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't, like, we've always had these soft zone cover corners who just, hey, we'll eat your space and we'll tackle you. Benford is hitting people and then beating them up after the whistle with ill intent. And in phase, he is incredibly physical when it comes. He feels like the ball is his, and he said as much. He made a comment to a reporter that on every snap, he feels like the ball is just as much his as his wide receivers. Tell me that's not who you want as your CB1.
Yeah.
It's incredible that Sean McDermott has been able to cultivate this. A big physical body to attack the ball with aggression, who you spent a 6th-round pick on. And he's replacing your failed first-round pick in Kyrie Elam. Benford has been a revelation. He's the hero of the game because he embodies what this secondary has become. You know, you talk about Cam Lewis, you talk about Jamarcus Ingram. Do you want to know why they're good? It's because they're all like Benford. They believe that, hey, I'm big. Fuck you. I don't care if I came from Buffalo. I'll bully the shit out of you. I'll fight you right here on this football field if I have to. And they walk that line of aggression and violence, play in and play out at the cornerback position. And that's, like, Chris, that's Legion of Boom stuff. And if they dial this in, it's going to be wild. It's going to be wild if this continues to work. And I think this week's matchup against the Ravens is really going to kind of prove as a litmus test for whether this is successful or not, right?
Yes.
And then the zero of the week, Chris, it's going to be pedestrians leaving the stadium, walking back from the game.
You look like death warmed over. Every time I look at you, I lose my fucking appetite.
I don't lose my appetite. I lose my mind. I roll my window down and I scream obscenities and say some wild shit. Chris?
You did that on Sunday. Monday.
Guys, I want to walk some of you who are watching us at home through what it is to leave a Bills primetime game. You're leaving in the dark, okay? Pedestrians are still glowing with the euphoria of like, hey, we just won. Most of us are half in the bag. And they stumble out of the stadium and pour out onto Abbott Road. We try to leave the parking lot. Now, just because you sat there and watched Josh Allen be bulletproof, just superhuman for multiple quarters of football, it doesn't mean that you are. It doesn't mean you can hurdle things. It doesn't mean that you can, like Chris, it doesn't mean that you can take a hit. And it certainly doesn't mean that you should walk out in front of a vehicle with impunity. And yet that's exactly what happens.
I'm going to say this. When you leave the stadium, Abbott Road, if you're walking south on Abbott, you have until, I don't even know what the name of the first street is, where you can go down to the Mafia House.
Yeah.
So when you get to that first street, at that point, you got to use the sidewalks because they're not there. But you should not be in either lane going north on Abbott or south on Abbott.
You've got assholes walking down sidewalks and streets with zero regard for their own fucking safety. I mean, dark clothing and jackets, walking directly in front of vehicles that are either merging into traffic out of parking lots like we were.
Yes.
Or that are actively driving in traffic and people are just running across the street. It's like, guys, we're all just trying to get home without a catastrophe, right? Pedestrian laws are cute. They serve a purpose. Chris, what did I scream at that lady? Do you remember?
You said something about her missing her daughter's wedding.
My quote was, all of the pedestrian laws in the world won't help you dance at your daughter's wedding if you find your way under my fender. You bitch. Those are things I said. I want to cop to it. I want to admit to it. I did scream that into traffic. But it's true. You all believe you're bulletproof, and I get it. You're all flying high off a Buffalo Bills victory. Stay out of the way of traffic, for the love of God. There are too many of you who feel entitled to the road. And what scares me is that if you stay, like if one of you finds your way under the fender of my truck, that's a wrap for you. I don't know how to fix that. There's nothing we can do, we as the general public. And yet, so many of you are very cavalier about just like, hey, I'm pulling out onto the street, and you'll run in front of that car. Why run? Go around the open mouths of driveways trying to pull onto main stretches right in front of the stadium. Hey guys, in traffic, in the dark, don't run in between vehicles in traffic when it's 4 lanes wide. Someone will inevitably clip you. Like, I feel like I'm this far from being Marshawn Lynch every single time I drive home from one of these games, and it's you people. The problem isn't me. I'm trying to be respectful because if I wasn't, I would have mowed at least a half a dozen of you down by now.
The moral of the story is we need to find a new lot to tailgate in because we have to leave at the start of the fourth quarter to get home within the amount of time that we were allowed when we were in the mud lot. So anybody out there that's watching this, that you go to the game and you know of a
Marshawn Drew.
Yeah.
Marshawn Drew in the
Marshawn
comments.
Drew. If you have a tailgate, preferably on 20A, it would be east of Abbott and 20A, something like the mud lot. That's what we miss. Let us know where to tailgate. I think we got to find a new lot so you can't yell at fat women.
Well, hang on. Whoa, I didn't mention her weight. That's on you. I didn't bring that up. I just mentioned it was a woman who was very cavalier about just strutting in front of my truck in full stride. As I'm literally gearing up and catching momentum, this woman steps in front of the truck and I go, "Lady, do you know how close to death you are?"
If you were in the truck, you heard fat women. Allegedly. Allegedly, you heard fat women.
I didn't say that. So, guys, final thoughts. Chris, as we wrap this, what do you got?
I'm surprised at the dominant start that we've had. I thought it was asinine for anybody to say that, oh, the Bills don't have talent around Josh Allen, so they're going to be awful and or mediocre. I was not expecting us to beat the shit out of Miami the way we did. I was not expecting us to beat the shit out of Jacksonville the way we did. The next 3 games on the road, Baltimore, Houston, the Jets. This is going to be a turning point in our season. I would love to see the Bills go 3-0 in the next 3 on the road. I'm surprised at our start. I'm hoping we can keep it up. Like I'm picturing. I think it was this show that I said before we're going to get into that lull in October, November. We're going to have a 4 or 5 game stretch that we might go 3-2, 2-3, have that lull in the season that we always have under McDermott. I do like the start. Joe Brady killing it at offensive coordinator.
The Bills are the NFL's highest scoring team by a wild margin. They're one of the most efficient attacks in football. And they're doing it with the right mix of talents, both in terms of pass catcher and offensive line skill, and also with a scheme that's proven it can be molded to fit any game's requirement, right? Like, this game requires us to run the ball. This game requires we avoid the run and we pitch it out, and we actually just only use the run to keep the defense honest so that we can play action. At this point, our offense, like the coordinating job that they're doing, is incredible. On the defensive side of the ball, I don't know that there's been a team that's done a better job over the last 2 weeks than the Buffalo Bills. Back-to-back dominating performances over Florida teams. Chris, do we own Florida?
So the title of the video is we're undefeated.
So we're undefeated in the state of Florida, and if you figure last year we beat Tampa Bay, does that mean that Josh Allen is governor?
No. You don't.
No. Hang on. Can we go down there to Ron DeSantis' office and be like, hey, Ron, I know you think you're in charge, but my boy, guess what? He beat every football team in the state. I'm pretty sure that's grounds for eviction, and now you have to vacate the seat, and Josh gets to control the legislature.
You don't fuck on Ron DeSantis.
He goes, you don't fucking Ron DeSantis. Does Josh Allen get free admission to every Trump golf course down there now because we dominated every single Florida football team in the last 2 years?
Probably already does.
He probably already does. Guys, we own Florida, just like we own Jersey. Remember that a couple years ago when Jersey fucked around and found out in that 2019 season when the Bills, coming out of a rebuild, nobody knew what to expect from them. And in the first couple weeks, we beat the Jets and we beat the Giants in back-to-back weeks in the same building with different colors in the end zone. The reality is we've beaten Florida's best, just like we beat New Jersey's best. Now what? The Jaguars fucked around and found out. Now they have a lot of questions to answer. Their franchise is in shambles, and it sounds like that game was a watershed moment for them in a bad way because their owner's pissed. Their coach is all of a sudden on a hot seat. Their fan base is in shambles. Everything sucks. They have players who are openly like tweeting negative things about the football team. Chris, sounds like a great time, doesn't it?
100%.
On the other side of the coin, you have the Buffalo Bills, who just once again proved like, hey, great teams, boat race bad teams. We're a great team. We just haven't played anybody who could prove like that we could prove our mettle against. Well, we have a chance this weekend. I think that we wait, Lauren Oubre, Josh is Florida man. Can you see that Josh is Florida man? He might be. He's like, oh wait, is everything breaking down? Fuck it, I'll jump over it. That's the most Florida man concept of all time. He goes, screw it, I'll throw myself head first at it. Wait, there's a problem? Let me throw myself head first into it. Lauren, I love you. I love this. I love the group that we've cultivated here who shows up to watch this stuff live. What I want to end this with is that what you're watching right now is the reclamation of a football team, but it's not happening because we went out and bought it in free agency. Far from it. And it's not happening because our coaches were like, hey, we brought in a bunch of ringers. Chris, I hate to say this, and I hate being the guy who has to give Sean McDermott his flowers. Sean McDermott groomed a pair of guys and stuck them in roles and said, hey, I trust you implicitly. Let's talk about trust. Going for it in the red zone against the Dolphins on 4th and 2 is very different than going for it on 4th and 3 against the Jaguars on the 45-yard line. But he still went, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because the offensive coordinator said so and he believed in him. He trusted Josh. He goes, hey, if you and Josh think that's a good idea, fuck it. Who am I? This whole thing, and maybe the hero of the night should have gone to Sean McDermott for being able to put his ego on the shelf and let this whole thing matriculate to a point where you now have a football team that runs with a defensive expert as a head coach. So when you do film study and you do game planning, he's there. He's in the meeting rooms. He's giving you ideas and thoughts as cornerbacks and as defensive backs. He's telling you this is the physicality you got to play with. And here's the technique I would use to play with this and that. And when it comes to the offense, he goes, I've got a guy who I trust. 2 of them. I've got 17 and I've got Brady. And between them, I'm going to let them run the show. If they say they want to go for it on the 45, then fuck it. Why not? We'll make it up later. Guys, what we're seeing is an egoless football team. Every ounce of ego. Like when Josh talked about it earlier in that audio clip we played for you about everybody being unselfish. Sean McDermott's joined the club and it's turned this football team into a monster. This week against the Ravens is going to be the real litmus test of whether or not this approach actually holds water. If they win, I'm going to be so insufferable. Chris, I love Super Mexican. Zero ego, all id. That's right, baby. You just exist. You just exist and react in the moment. And that's Buffalo Bills football right now. And I love it.
Apparently, Sunday is a watch party with our lawyer, Mark.
Oh, good.
He put it in the chat and specifically tagged me because he knows that
he knows that you won't respond if you did.
I don't respond to @everyone in our chat.
Guys, I love this. I love this football team. I love the fact that we're 3-0 after coming in with no expectations to the season. Now the question is, where can we take this? Where can we take this? And we're all going to find out here. This Sunday is the first of 2 litmus tests. And if they pass it, God help everybody, because I'm going to be insufferable. Insufferable. All the fans, every Jaguars fan, like today, I was savaging Jaguars fans on Twitter for their shitty takes. You can find it if you follow us over at Rockpile Report on Twitter. Just giving them the business for all their preseason takes. Guess what? It's going to get worse if we win this game against the Ravens. Guys, make sure you check out our preview show with Ken McCusick from Ravens Film Study.
I'll have it out tomorrow.
And then I'm going to record another AFC East from my basement, AFC's Roundup. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot of shows this week for you guys. But for tonight, I got to finish this golden bullet and get the hell out of here because this Black Manhattan's strong. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. And this has been your Rock Pile